I want to take a moment to recognize and you may be seated, by the way. You may be seated. I want to take a moment to recognize two individuals who are members of what Chairman Lathan has described as the A-Team. These two ladies have worked tirelessly for many years to further the growth of our party and have organized many an event through the years, including today's. They are both long-term members of the executive committee and have held various leadership roles in the party throughout the years. Sadly, they both will be moving to different areas of the state over the next several months. I will miss their leadership and guidance, but most of all, I will miss their friendship. Please join me in recognizing, and I'll ask them to stand and wave, and one of them may be back in the kitchen, Judy Frazier and Becky Vasco, and give them, please, a big round of applause for all of them. They are part of the backbone of our party in this county, and we'll miss them greatly. On November 6, 2018, Alabamians will head to the polls to decide whether to elect national, state, and local Republicans that will work with President Trump at all levels of government and continuing to make America great again, or whether they will vote for the Democrats and turn the clock back to the previous 8 years of malaise, stagnant economic growth, attacks on our religious freedoms and traditions, and a diminished standing on the world stage. I'm here to tell you today that despite the fake news reports of a so-called imminent blue wave, Alabamians and Americans across the country on November 6th will head to the polls, and they're going to do again what they said they couldn't do in November of 2016, and instead of a blue wave, there'll be a rising tide of conservatism that will guarantee more money in the pockets of the American taxpayer, a defense of our religious liberties, and a protection of our God-given right to arm and defend ourselves. But first we have to get past June 5th, and that's why we're here today. We must choose among our candidates those individuals who best represent our values and will be the best suited to defeat the Democrats in November. Regardless of our individual loyalties after June 5th, when our nominees are chosen, we will unite as a party and we will support our nominees. The stakes are far too great not to, and make no mistake, the Democrats are there, the barbarians are at the gate, and we have to hold them back. Thank you again for coming here today to learn more about your candidates, and please remember to vote on June 5th. Now, as sometimes happens with inclement weather, and it's unpredictable here as you know, plans have to change. Governor Ivey and Mayor Tommy Battle were unable to be here with us today. We decided to tweak the format a bit. Instead of a forum with our gubernatorial candidates, we will hear from each of the candidates present for governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. The candidates for lieutenant governor or attorney general will each have 5 minutes to speak, followed by the gubernatorial candidates who will have 10 minutes each. And we will begin, and for everybody else that's here, we want everybody to be recognized, but I said when you have 50-something candidates, if you let everybody speak 5 minutes, we'll be here till next week. So we're going to introduce them. As I call your name, I'm going to ask you to walk in front of the stage, and we'll call out your name and what you're running for, and you can give everybody a big wave, and we're glad that you're here. But we're not going to hear from you today, but we thank you for being here. And I'm going to start with our Baldwin County local offices, and we'll go up from there. And when we get to Attorney General, Lieutenant Governor, and Governor, I'm going to turn the reins over to Chairman Lathan. And we will begin with Baldwin County's own Baldwin County Sheriff Huey Hoss Mack. Oh, good. We got steps. Now they can walk across the stage. Very good. Baldwin County Commission, Place 1 candidate, Jeb Ball. Walk in front, walk behind. I had said the front because they didn't have steps. Now they do. If you want to walk back here, help yourself. Baldwin County Commission, Place 1 candidate, Frank Burt. I don't see Frank. Is Frank still here? Well, Frank, when you get here, just walk on up. We'll know why you're here. Baldwin County Commission, Place 2 candidate Joe Davis. And these are in alphabetical order, by the way. Baldwin County Commission, Place 2 candidate John Lake. Baldwin County Commission, Place 3 candidate Tucker Dorsey. Baldwin County Commission, Place 3 candidate Will McDaniel. Baldwin County Commission, Place 3 candidate Billy Joe Underwood. Baldwin County Commission, Place 4 candidate Skip Ruber. Baldwin County Commission, Place 4 candidate Jerry Johnson. Coroner Brian Pierce. Probate Judge candidate Alan Lipscomb. I guess we went out of order. They didn't count the D, Harry. I don't know how that works. Probate Judge Harry Doley. Probate Judge Max Hansen. Probate Judge Matthew McKenzie. Probate Judge James Lynn Perry. School Board District 1 Michael Johnson. School Board District 2 Andrea Lindsay. House 64 candidate Stephen Sexton. House 64 candidate Harry Shiver. House 95 candidate Steve McMillan. You know what? Somebody probably saw John and thought it was Steve. I'm sure that's happened before. Oh, he's in the kitchen. He's working. Well, he's a hard-working man. House 96 candidate Matthew Simpson. Senate 32 candidate Jeff Boyd. Senate 32 candidate Chris Elliott. Senate 32 candidate David Northcutt. Senate 32 candidate Bill Roberts. District Judge candidate Brian Dassinger. District Judge candidate Bill Scully. Circuit Clerk Jody Wise Campbell. Circuit Clerk Pam Forbes. Circuit Clerk Mark Stacegold. Circuit Judge Jody Bishop. Court of Civil Appeals, Place 2, Chad Hansen. Court of Civil Appeals, Place 1, Pat Thetford. Place 1, Court of Appeals, Michelle Thomason. Civil Appeals, Place 2, Terry Thomas. Criminal Appeals, Place 1, Riggs Walker. Criminal Appeals, Place 2, Richard Anderson. Criminal Appeals, Place 2, Chris McCool. Criminal Appeals, Place 3, Donna Bulow. Criminal Appeals, Place 3, Bill Cole. That was creative, very creative. Supreme Court, Place 4, John Bako. I probably butchered it. Bayhackle. Place 4. Supreme Court, Place 4, Jay Mitchell. I know I've been marked off. Supreme Court, Place 1, Deborah Jones. Supreme Court, Place 1, Brad Manheim. Supreme Court, Place 1, Sarah Stewart. Chief Justice Lynn Stewart. Public Service Commission, Jeremy Oden. Public Service Commission, Robin Lederker. Ag and Industries, Richard Pate. And here's Baldwin County Commissioner Frank Burke. Auditor Jim Ziegler. Treasurer John McMillan. Treasurer David Black. House 94, Joe Faust. Hey, our Joe. Secretary of State John Merrill. And now I would like to introduce the hardest working party chairman in the country, Alabama Republican Party Chairman Terry Latham, who will introduce our candidates for Attorney General, Lieutenant Governor, and give them their opportunity to speak. Please join me in welcoming Terry Latham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had some candidates call me this week because they know I live in Mobile, and they heard a storm was coming. And they said, Chairman, do you think Baldwin County will cancel their event? I said, dude, if it's not a Cat 3, we're laughing at it. Come and get us. I'm pretty sure the event's on. I want to thank Chairman Hoyt for asking me to come over today. He got me out of cutting grass, so I'm very appreciative of that, by the way. Reverend Leon, I want to thank you for that beautiful prayer. And I want to thank him for reminding us that church is not Sunday for an hour. Church is every day, and it's in your heart. And we live in a great country where we can stand up and not be afraid. People will come through those doors with guns and stop us from saying that we love the Lord. I remember in 2012, the Democratic Party at their national convention had a floor fight over if they should remove the word God in their platform. The delegates ruled to take the word God out of their platform, which was a majority of people. The chairman on the stage overruled the majority, and they left the word in. But that you even have to have that discussion is unbelievable in our country. Don't tell me there's not a difference between a Democrat and a Republican. Ever, never, ever. That's fake news. It's fake news. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. We've got some fantastic people. I have I don't want to, at this time, kind of interrupt myself, And we want to we have a state representative that's popped in, Alan Baker. Where are you, Alan? Alan, there he is. Alan is there. Alan, take your walk with your sign, like everybody else. Listen, this is family today. I walked in and went, man, this isn't a political forum or rally. This is a family. This is amazing. Thank you, candidates. Most of you from the north, you've come down to the south with the storm coming because you know Baldwin County is important. You win the primary in Baldwin County, we'll see you in November. We'll see you in November. And you're going to be winning there too. Winning, Baldwin County. Thank the Lord for Baldwin County. So at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce the folks that are going to have a few minutes to speak for you, starting with the Attorney General candidates. So if I can have your attention, please, for just a few minutes. I used to do that in my 5th grade classroom. If I just stopped talking, every student would look at me. It works. And before they come up, thank you, candidates. I don't care what you're running for. You give up your time, you give up your family, you give up income, you give up your life to be a servant of the people. So we honor you. First person up to speak to you, running for Attorney General, is Mr. Chess Bedsole.
Thank you, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having us. We are happy to be here. I'd like to thank my wife, Jenna Bedsole, for coming down as well and supporting us all. I'm Chess Bedsole. I'm running for Attorney General. I'm running for several reasons. Number one, to turn the page on public corruption in this state for good. Number two, to tackle our terrible crime statistics. And number three, to finally push back on the last 8 years of Obama regulations and more than 50 years of liberal Supreme Court decisions. I spent most of the 2 years working for Donald Trump. Started my job working with him in the summer of 2015. When I met Mr. Trump, he was wearing jeans and a short sleeve polo shirt, and we were still 6 months away from getting Secret Service. And I will tell you what he said to me the first time I met him. He joked around for a while, and he's actually a very funny guy. He's a smart man. He is one of the best bosses I've ever had. And I have to say this every time I get to a mic. He is a fine gentleman, a great friend, and a hero to this country. And you will never hear that on most TV stations. So I'm always smart to say it. Thank you. Mr. Trump told me when I met him, he said, "Do you know why the Republican Party lost 2 elections to Barack Obama, a man we never should have lost to once?" And I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "We lost to Obama twice because we kept nominating polite gentlemen who were too polite to speak the truth to the American people and really talk about our problems." And then he said something that he reminded us of later. He warned us. He said, "I am not going to be a gentleman." And he was right. And he told us later, he said, "Listen, you have got to fight every day if you are pushing conservative causes, because it's not about the fight. It's about winning. Because if you don't win, you can't change this country. You can't get conservatives on court benches. You can't change regulations. You can't push different policies unless you win." Now, I'm here to tell you I am running to do one thing in particular. I am the only person in this race who said no to the interview with Governor Bentley, because I do not do business with crooks. I don't. And I think that's important in an Attorney General. So first of all, there's that. But we have got to turn the page on public corruption because our crime statistics are terrible. We are number 3 in the country for murders. Alabama is a murder state. Our violent crime rate goes up double digits every single year, and there are right now more than 3,300 rape kits sitting at a lab waiting for analysis just from Mobile County alone. Now that represents not only crime and criminals, but it represents victims. And it is high time we got our house in order and started doing right by the citizens of this state. Lastly, we have got to push back on 50 plus years of liberal decisions by Supreme Courts. It is time to really protect the Second Amendment rights that gun owners have. It is time to really protect the right to life, and it is time to get rid of the operating rules that we've known in this country for a generation and get something better. We can do it. The first thing we need is an Attorney General who is a committed conservative, a real Republican who's going to go in there and make these fights. Now, I intend to do it, so help me God. I ask for your vote on June the 5th, but before that, I ask you something else. I think you ought to really seriously pray hard for every single candidate and their families in this race and every race on the ballot, because it is harder, I think, on the families than it is on the people on the ballot. And I ask for those prayers. I also ask for your involvement. I love seeing you here today. Take a sign, tell your friends. We appreciate it. Once again, Chess Bedsole for Attorney General. I want your vote June 5th. Thank you.
I have some breaking news for you. Hillary Clinton is not the President of the United States of America. I just want to say that every day of my life. This time it's my privilege to introduce the current Attorney General of the state of Alabama, Mr. Steve Marshall.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you all very much for being here today. Now, let me do this initially, and I know several people have said it already, but to all the candidates that are here, I want to congratulate you on the fact that you've offered yourself for public service, that you spent the last 11 months or a year going around, not only in this community, but for those of you that are statewide candidates, offering yourself up for service. That is commendable, and despite the results on June the 5th, you will have victory. I also appreciate the fact that both Allison Chess and I, for the last many months, have appeared all over this state, unlike one of the other candidates for this office, allowing ourselves to be questioned, for those to be able to come up and talk to us, and for us to be able to share our vision for this state. And I believe that they both have likewise worked very hard, as I have, to be able to share a vision for the people of Alabama. So why me? You know, unlike Chess and Alice, one of the things that I offer you is not only what I will do as Attorney General, but what I've done. So let me share with you this week, and maybe it reflects what I am as your Attorney General. 20 years as a prosecutor for me, 16 as the DA in Marshall County. I know what it means to deal with public safety. Was selected by my peers from National Attorney General across the country to lead an effort to deal with going dark or digital evidence, and led a call with Attorney Generals from across the country about how it is that we can enhance our abilities locally to deal with this type of evidence. On Tuesday morning, I was at the parole board to be able to oppose a woman by the name of Judith Ann Neely. Maybe many of you don't remember that name, but in North Alabama, one of the most notorious murders that we had. A woman that kidnapped a 13-year-old girl. She was sexually assaulted. She was tortured. She was injected with Drano and ultimately killed and thrown into Little River Canyon. And despite the decision of Governor James to commute that death sentence, we were there on behalf of that family to make sure that Judith Ann Neely stayed in prison. This week we filed a lawsuit to be able to preserve Alabama's number of congressional representatives, to be able to say that we shouldn't count those who are in this country illegally for purposes of determining our congressional representation. Because I will tell you this from an expert that we've hired, if we count those who are in this country illegally, we will lose a member of Congress, which means that we will lose an elector on the Electoral College, which means we will lose the ability of Alabama to be able to influence what's going on in Washington. And we stood up and said that was wrong. It's why I believe that I've been endorsed by the 27 Republican Attorneys General across this country, because they've seen the fights that we've been willing to do, to be able to stand up against DACA and to be able to say that that's an illegal order, to be able to say that the President of the United States ought to be able to adopt a travel order to make sure that we stay safe and to be able to fight that in the Supreme Court. It's why I've been endorsed by Alabama Citizens for Life as the pro-life candidate, because we've been willing to fight for a pregnancy center in Baltimore who shouldn't be compelled to provide abortion information to young mothers. We've stood up for issues of life around this country to be able to say that it matters, and we've been recognized for that. It's why I've been endorsed by the NRA, because we stood up for the Second Amendment, not just here in Alabama, but also around the country with those who would try to see that not as a constitutional right, but just simply as an advisory matter. Instead, we're going to stand for the ability for you to be able to carry appropriately, and for us to not be subject to the liberals who would want to take away our guns. I've appreciated the fact that we've been able to stand with the city of Pensacola, who says that we want to have a cross in the city park and keep it there when we've had it there for 26 years. That we want to be able to stand with the city council in North Carolina who says it's okay to pray before we begin a session. And I want to be able to stand with a baker who says I don't want to have to bake a cake for a gay wedding and not be compelled to violate my rights of religious liberty. It is a privilege to be able to serve you. It is a privilege to be able to stand, most importantly, with those men and women of law enforcement who are truly my heroes, who every day go about making us safe. I'm Steve Marshall, and I've been privileged to serve as your Attorney General. I would ask for your consideration on June 5th and would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Important issues that we're going to be addressing, and Chess and Steve just mentioned some. And last but not least, the lady of the house tonight, running for the Attorney General, Miss Alice Martin.
Thank you. I'm Alice Martin, and I'm from Florence, Alabama, so I think I'm the Attorney General candidate that's come the furthest, and maybe the one that's come down here the most. I hope you've met me or my husband, Lewis, who is traveling with me today, and have a card to give you a little bit more about me. There's only so much we can say in 5 minutes, but I want to tell you why I'm running, and I've said it's the 3 C's. I want to defend and preserve the Constitution. Right now, we Republicans know that the liberal left is trying to pull apart our Constitution. And the entity that fights for that in Alabama, on the national stage and here locally, is your Attorney General. You know, we're the tip of the spear and we're the last line of defense for the state. That's what we do every day in court. I was proud when I served in the Attorney General's office to fight back against same-sex marriage mandate, against the transgender bathroom mandate. And we've heard about all the litigation that Steve has joined, and that's what a Republican conservative will do. But I want to focus on Alabama. We heard a lot of cities that weren't Alabama and a lot of states that weren't Alabama, and we need to focus here. I'm pro-guns, and when I read a ruling on the gun signs in the state of Alabama, you will see them on the internet. The current appointed Attorney General has pulled those down, so we don't have transparency. I'm for open carry. I supported SB 13. It's your God-given right. I'm pro-life. I'm happy to be endorsed also by the Alabama Farmers Federation, which I know is an important group, as this is a farming, agricultural county. That's the first C. The second is corruption. That's where the Attorney General needs to focus. 98% of your criminal cases are going to be handled by your local district attorney. And I was happy to stand with your sheriff at a parole hearing when they were considering paroling his grandfather's murderer. That again is something that all the AG candidates are going to do. But no one can stand to tell you that they have a record of 140 corruption convictions as a federal prosecutor in the state of Alabama, against people like the head of the 2-year college system, Roy Johnson, against the mayor of Birmingham, 2 Alabama sheriffs, 2 Alabama district attorneys. It is time to clean up the swamp that we call Montgomery. I'm going to help Trump with all of the federal litigation we have, but I'm going to focus my efforts in Montgomery because that's where the rubber meets the road. The third C is fighting for families, for communities and children, and that's what I've done. I have 25 years of my 37 years experience, which is 10 to 20 years more than the 2 gentlemen that preceded me in fighting for families. Child trafficking, child pornography. I served as a federal prosecutor for Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and I served as a United States attorney responsible for 60% of Alabama's population in your federal law enforcement. for George W. Bush, confirmed by the United States Senate. I'm the only person running for this job that has actually worked for a president of the United States. I'm also very proud to be a nurse. I want to really enforce the elder laws in Alabama, and that's something that the Attorney General's office does. You know, I worked as a nurse visiting with elder homebound patients when I was a law student. And the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit in the AG's office, we deal with the exploitation of the elderly. And we did that when I was the AG. And I want to do that for you. You know, I don't think Attorney General, the AG, shouldn't stand for aspiring governor. It should stand for Alabama's guardian. But let me tell you, maybe the most important C is courage. I want you not only to study the candidates, I want you to study who is funding the candidates. I want you to see, are they rich people that are funding themselves? Are they funded by people like you that are writing $10 checks, $100 checks? Are they funded by BCA to the tune of $250,000 to the current appointed Attorney General, who served as a district attorney in Marshall County as a Democrat until he switched parties in 2012? I want you to know whether you're getting a true conservative Republican or somebody that's backed by the special interest money of Montgomery, and they're not going to fight for the little people. I am for the people, not the powerful. I ask you to look at alicemartin.com. I've got a website. Please look at it. Listen to my podcast, and I look forward to and ask for your vote on June the 5th. Thank you.
That's a very important position. Please take the time in thought and prayer, as mentioned, to let your next Attorney General, because it will be a Republican. At this time, we're going to shift gears just a moment, and we're going to go to the Lieutenant Governor spot. And we have with us today, running for Lieutenant Governor of the state of Alabama, Rusty Glover.
Thank you. It's great to be here. My mother's from Bay Minette, and I went to school at Faulkner, and all my kids went to Faulkner, and nieces and nephews went here. So I feel like I'm at home. In fact, 7 months ago, my booth was right over here for the fair, and it was great to meet so many people from Baldwin County at the fair, and it's great to be back. I've served in the Alabama Senate for 3 terms, starting in 2006. And I was unopposed actually in 2010 and 2014, primarily because of my conservative voting record, pro-life, pro-gun. I've been endorsed by the National Pro-Life, National Right to Life, and got an A rating for NRA. And so I feel like that had a lot to do with me being unopposed, plus the fact that I was willing to work with the people in my district, go to meetings, meet their concerns, and I plan on doing the same thing and working hard for the people of Alabama as the next Lieutenant Governor. I'm not going to take another job. That's a pledge that I've made. I'm going to work for the people. I'm not going to be a consultant for anyone. I'm going to work solely for the people of Alabama. I've also pledged to do the right thing in each and everything that I do, whether it's considering appointments to boards and commissions, running the Senate. You know, the Lieutenant Governor, I'm asked quite a bit, what does the Lieutenant Governor do? Primarily, one of the most important things that they do is they preside over the Senate. They decide who gets to speak at the podium. And this can be a very tedious position because, as you probably imagine, there's a lot of high egos in the Alabama Senate. And if you recognize the wrong person, whether intentionally or unintentionally, you can have fireworks. And we have had fireworks over the years. In fact, you may remember in 2007, we had a fist fight on the floor of the Senate. Now, as a former high school history teacher, I plan on utilizing my classroom management skills to keep the Senate in order. Also, my knowledge of the Senate rules, having been there, I think that's an asset to my candidacy. And of course, as we saw last April before last, Lieutenant Governor becomes governor if there's some reason that the governor should have to step down. I feel like my years of experience in Montgomery, knowing who I can trust, that's very important. Putting a team together for any office is being able to trust the right people, and I plan on doing that. But anyway, I just want to thank you so much for having this opportunity to speak here today. Like I said, I'm going to give it my all. You're not going to see me on television as much as my opponents. I didn't have $1 million campaign. It was a very small campaign as far as expenditure, but as far as amount of money I've gotten from individual people, I've had the most donors of anyone in the campaign. I'm very proud of that. A lot of people gave me money that could not afford it, but they believe in this candidacy. And I'm going to work my very hardest for you. And please go to rustyglover.com. I have 4 television commercials, or 4 Facebook and 1 television commercial. I ask for you to view it. View it several times, because I know you've seen my opponents several times. So watch it a few times. And I ask for your consideration, your vote, and your prayers. Pray for all the candidates because of the long travels. I mean, since I met people here 7 months ago, I put over 40,000 miles on my truck going around the state meeting people. A lot of other candidates have traveled quite a bit, and they need your prayers too. Thank you so much, and I ask for your vote a week from Tuesday. Thank you.
All right, Governor. Offices or candidates for the office of Governor of the great state of Alabama. Before I introduce our first speaker and candidate, may I, as your state party chairman at this time, remind you, the family, of something. We might not always agree. We might not always dance to the same tune on some things. But the main thing to remember for November is that the main thing is the main thing, and that's to win, no matter we get our candidates through the primary and not beat up on each other, and get through July to love these candidates and love and embrace the Republican platform and go vote for whoever our nominees are. Will you join me in November in making that pledge? Everyone in the room. I see the hands up. Thank you for Alabama, for Alabama. At this time, it is my great pleasure and honor to introduce Mr. Scott Dawson, candidate for Governor of Alabama.
Well, good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here with you. What started a year and a half ago. Today, if I'm not mistaken, this may be the last time all the candidates are gathered together under one roof. All the miles we've driven, all the hands that we've shaken, all the chicken we've eaten, and all the nights we've spent away from home. It has been a great journey for all of us. Whatever happens on June 5th, it's been an incredible pleasure of getting to know some new friends, and there will be several runoffs and several things that are going to take place up until our victory in November. But today, as I was looking at about what to speak to you about, Baldwin County is so special to me. We started our first Winter Bible Conference down at Gulf Shore, Orange Beach, at then Perdido Beach Hilton Hotel. It was right after Christmas, right before New Year's, and if you remember back in those days, Orange Beach and Gulf Shores closed down. We brought 2,000 students to the beach after Christmas with nothing to do after 7 p.m. It brought a new sense of creativity into our mindset. So to me, as I'm looking out across this crowd, I know you've got questions. We're 10 days away from the election, and everyone's still kind of going, all right, who are you, what are you going to do, and how can you win? Who am I? I'm Scott Dawson. I grew up in Inslee, Alabama, just west of Birmingham. My wife, Tara, who's here today, sitting right down here in the polka dots. Not Susan, she's also in polka dots, but the other polka dotted dress, as Tara is sitting over here. I grew up in Midfield. I went to Samford University, got my master's at Beeson Divinity School. We've got a ministry kind of like Billy Graham's, but much smaller. We work with students, like we said about the student conference. We work with Major League Baseball. The last year we worked with the Mets, the Royals, and the Cubs. This year we're working with the Royals. Now, who am I? I'm someone that makes decisions based on biblical worldview. I'm not trying to scare anyone. People say, well, are you trying to create a theocracy? No. I'm just telling you how I make decisions. Don't be naive. Anyone sitting in the governor's chair will make a decision based on some sort of an authority in his or her life. We just hope it's not special interest groups whispering in their ears. So when I say I make decisions based on biblical worldview, people go, well, what about those who are not of the same faith? Where do they fit into this situation? Quite simply, let me refresh our minds of Scripture. Scripture is the one that says, treat every person with respect. That term respect means to hold in high regard. You got to ask yourself, when did civility die in our country? There was a time when you could sit across the table and agree to disagree and still live in a community. Ladies and gentlemen, if we continue to move Alabama forward, we've got to learn. We will not agree on every issue, but we can still live in a community and still move our state forward. You see, first of all, who am I? The second question is, what are you going to do? I am the one that kind of tweeted out very early, it is time to get rid of Common Core and bring back common sense into the classrooms in the state of Alabama. And when I say that, we're not trying to remove standards. We want Alabama standards. We want them taught by Alabama teachers, and we want Alabama values inside of our classroom. We want to teach our young minds to be able to lead instead of just to take a test. We want to make sure every student, by the time he or she is in third grade, is reading, writing, and doing correct arithmetic. This isn't another $100 million initiative, ladies and gentlemen. Listen up. What I'm talking about are mentors in the classroom that after a background check and adult supervision, you'll never be alone with a child. I look out here today and I see people who could volunteer their time, that as a child is falling back on their sight words or phonics, if they can't grab their additions or their subtractions, that as the teacher is teaching, you're in the classroom, and together we can guarantee every child is reading, writing, doing arithmetic by the time he or she gets to third grade. That alone will change the future of our state. It is also time for us to set Alabama businesses free. You'll hear candidates get up here and talk about jobs. To me, that is nothing more than static noise. Why? Because that's your role as governor. But do not be deceived. It is not a one-person job. It takes a team to launch a dream. There are great economic factors in our state, and those forces come together. We will recruit the right industry to our state. But I was with a CEO in Birmingham, and here's what he told me. He said, Scott, every month we joke around our boardroom table about we should move our business to Georgia so Alabama will come and recruit us and give us the incentives that they're giving everyone else they're trying to recruit to Alabama. And I went, that's an unfair playing field. You know what we need to have? Something called cut the tape. That if we have an independent counsel, that if you have something going on and if it's an unnecessary fee or regulation that's placed on you, if the agency that enforces it cannot defend it to this independent counsel, it needs to be removed from the books. I just have to ask you, why would we not incentivize Alabama businesses to grow and expand and export? Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to set the Alabama business community free. It is time for us to move our state forward. That will set our economy on fire. The final question you got to ask yourself. I know you're probably sitting there going, hey, I may like this guy. He's a little bit out of the box, but can he win? Can he win? You see, I go back to June 5th of last year. I am the true outsider. You're going to have people stand up here and say, we need a seasoned politician to be our governor. We need a business person to be our governor. I've traveled this state for the last 30 years. You've got some candidates that say they visited each county. I've preached in every county. And I'm going to tell you, I know Alabama. And now more than ever before, I believe Alabama needs a leader. Alabama needs a leader who can cast a vision to this next generation, move our state together, and move us forward together. You see, ladies and gentlemen, on June 5th, when I announced on the Rick and Bubba show, we had over 7,000 jump on, be a part of our campaign. You go check out Facebook, I think we have more followers than any other candidate in the gubernatorial race. You see, what is happening is there's a message that is resonating with people across our state. That maybe it's time for a fresh perspective in the state of Alabama. You see, I'm running because you're not. And we need one of us in Montgomery to lead our state. We need one of us who will champion the cause of pro-life. We need one of us that will stand up against special interest groups. We need one of us to lead our state forward. And because you're not going, I'm willing to go, but I can't go by myself. I would like to ask for your vote. I would like to ask for your support. If we don't drown going to our cars in the parking lot, maybe you could pick up a bumper sticker and put it on the back of your car, a sign, place it in your yard. But ladies and gentlemen, what we want to see happen in the state of Alabama is the best is yet to come. And with your help, we'll get there together. Thank you so much. ScottDawson.com. Scott Dawson for governor. Thank you.
And last, but certainly not least, a candidate for governor of the great state of Alabama, Mr. Bill Hightower.
Hey everybody, it's great to see many of you from the Alabama Republican Party. I'm a member of the Executive Committee for Alabama, also a part of the Mobile Executive Committee as well. I've been a Republican a long time, and I didn't just sign up yesterday. So I want to give a shout out too for our president. You know, I'm really proud of what our president's done. And because of him, America's working again. You remember a couple of years ago, we felt like it's just the way it is? That's what the difference in leadership can do. This man, I mean, a few months ago was the lowest application for unemployment benefits in over 40 years, 40. That's incredible, ladies and gentlemen. And because of that, Alabama's working again, and it's working really well. Friends are enjoying increased businesses, families are prospering, that's all good. But not everybody is winning. Why is it that we accept our status in the United States as 38th in the nation in GDP, or our labor force participation at 48, or our business environment ranking at 37? Why is it that Alabama is the third worst state for working moms? Why do we accept the fact that we rank 50th in overall professional opportunities for women? Why is it that we're ranked 20th in unemployment in the nation, and we're somehow happy in that position? Look, if Nick Saban had those kind of numbers, he'd be out on the street tomorrow. But yet, Montgomery, it's okay. We're used to average. We're not even average at 47, 48. So, do you think Montgomery's working? And that's the reason why I want to be the 55th governor of the state of Alabama. Plain and simple. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm a businessman. I grew up in Mobile. My dad was an open heart surgeon in Mobile and operated on many people throughout the region. But then I went away to graduate school at Vanderbilt to get an MBA, and I literally lived around the world and throughout the United States. I worked for big manufacturing companies like many of you have. Companies that took me to China where they don't have property rights, and South Korea, and all throughout Europe and through the United States. But one of the things these big companies taught me is how to go into a large organization and turn it around. Leadership positions where I was trying to determine where are we going to put our manufacturing plant? What are we going to do in this organization? That's what I did for a living. And that's what I want to bring to to Montgomery. So when 9/11 happened, we were living in Pittsburgh, and one of those planes crashed 30 minutes from our house. My wife and I said, let's go on home, hon. It's time to raise our kids in Alabama. Because we grew up here, we knew that this was a culture of faith and family, and you that have lived other places, you know what I'm talking about. This is a great state to live in. But let me tell you what I've done while I've been in the state senate. I am a state senator, been there for 5 years. I decided I was going to go back to my full-time job, and then I saw this void in the governorship. This void of leadership. We've had a dermatologist as a governor. We've had an attorney as a governor. Why don't we have a businessman? And I thought I could really make a difference, especially with my business background. And that's why I signed up for this, to try to bring Alabama to a new level. But I want to tell you what I've done. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, but what I've done, I'll tell you what I'm going to do too. I've been among the top 3 most conservative senators in the Alabama State Senate. Voted consistently while I've been there. Here's some of the things I've tried to do. because we are losing as a state. Texas is beating us, Georgia's beating us, Florida's beating us. If you had a business and the other competitors around you were winning and you were losing, wouldn't you say, gosh, what are we doing wrong? That's what I've been asking about Alabama, and I started looking into it. Our tax policy, ladies and gentlemen, it's a giveaway to the special interests. I want to revamp that. That's why I suggested the flat tax, which would almost eliminate your need to file an Alabama state tax return, saving you at least $300. I've also looked at the fair tax and studied that and tried, could we do this? These are revenue neutral ideas, ladies and gentlemen. This didn't raise money. This is going to be the same amount of revenue. I have signed the no tax pledge with Americans for tax reform. They endorsed my plan. It was so good. I've also want to bring budget reform to Alabama. You may not realize it, but do you like how Washington's running? Their budget is 70% earmarked. 70% of the federal government's budget is earmarked. It's called entitlements. Do you know what Alabama's is? 93%. 93%, and nobody's talking about it. We have an earmark budget of 93. You know what the next state, the next state's earmark is? 63%, and that's Michigan. Everybody's trying to be Michigan. So why in the world do we have a 93% earmark budget? I tell you why, it's because of special interest. And if we remove those earmarks, we can find the waste in the government so that we don't raise your taxes. By the way, I've voted against every tax increase that's been passed in Alabama. The bed tax, pharmaceutical tax, cigarette tax. I voted against all those. Here's why. Because I want reform. I don't think Montgomery's working again. I think it's broken. And I don't want to give any more revenue until we get the model right. And nobody's looking at Alabama's budgetary system saying they're doing a great job. I've also passed a bill to protect religious liberty. This is something really dear to me because I understand that our religious principles and the freedom to love and serve God and one another is why Alabama is the way it is. So I passed a bill to protect our faith-based adoption agencies so that they can place children in families that are in line with their true, sincere religious beliefs. I fought for term limits. Why term limits? When I first got there, I didn't know that we needed term limits, but I've seen where we do. I was a fence sitter in the beginning, but now I want them because every person that has been indicted in Montgomery was there for a long, long time. Give me term limits and you'll change Montgomery and its culture, where these politicians just want to go out and have a glass of wine and a steak with their lobbyists instead of bringing true reform to Montgomery. I passed a bill to make the selling of baby body parts illegal. In case if Holder comes back or somebody like him in DC and he doesn't want to bring justice to those that do that, we will. I've also passed a resolution to condemn Doug Jones for his vote against the pain-capable abortion bill. That's right. It's really serious, ladies and gentlemen. I think sometimes we forget what's going on to the children in the womb. And now science has proven those babies feel pain. But long time before that, I knew it was wrong. I didn't just need that to tell me. And I know many of you did too. Look, I've been a co-signer on the Repeal Common Core bill on every time I could sign up for it because our standards ought to be anything but common. I passed a bill to change our roads and bridges throughout Alabama, $1 billion road and bridge bill without raising your taxes. That's right. And let me tell you, legislators and leadership is getting ready to raise your taxes next year. I passed a bill without requiring that. And you know that I fought for the BP money to stay here on the coast. I was the lead on that. We filibustered until midnight to get that money. And we didn't get as much as we wanted, but it was stolen from us. And I can tell you more about that privately after this. I don't have time now. In sanctuary cities, there are actually still cities in Alabama trying to be a sanctuary city. I passed a bill to raise the penalties against that. So where am I going? That's my DNA. You got it? That's what I've been doing. Now, here's some of what I want to do, but I'm going to keep doing that other. Don't think I'm letting it go. I'm trying to tell you, I'm the principals. I'm going to bring certification programs into high schools. I want to invigorate the reading program that was award-winning. I want to bring the Road and Bridge Commission back to where we can do a 5 to 10 year plan like Tennessee and Georgia. They're doing it right. Why can't Alabama do that? To take politics out of the roads and bridges. I want to make adoption look cheap, and I want to make it easy, because we have an orphan crisis in our state. The only way to solve it is if our community comes together to help those that need a family. And I want to put broadband throughout the state so that we can take new content to the rural schools. My time's up, but let me tell you, leadership is the issue here, folks. You can't get things new if 30-plus year politicians are in control. I'm asking you, please don't accept status quo. We've had less than average. I'm afraid we're going to take average when you could have exceptional. If it's not me, make it somebody that can be exceptional in their leadership in the state. To win, I have to have your help. Go to BillHightower.com and learn more about me. I'll make you proud. I have the health, the strength, and the vigor, and I can beat Walt Maddox in that race. My greatest concern is that if we elect somebody who does not have the strength to carry that mission out, I promise you I will. Thanks for coming and your interest in Republican politics. Great to talk to you.
All right, can I have your attention, please? Can I have everyone in the room's attention? And I'm gonna wait a second till I have your attention, because it's important. Almost have everyone's attention. Can I have everyone's attention, please? Thank you very much. As we end our program, I turn over to Chairman Hoyt. I want to say, as your state party chairman, this is some of the strongest candidates, and those that could not be with us today as well, that I've ever seen in my 40 years in working in the Republican Party. And I'm so proud in November that we will absolutely be one of the strongest red states in America. And thank you, candidates. It's Memorial Day weekend, and it is a time for us to stop, even campaigning, even doing the things that we're just cutting our grass and going to the movies and maybe doing nothing at home because you need some time. But at this moment, in this what has been a very fun, boisterous room, can we stop and remember appropriately Memorial Day weekend? Because there are families that have heard the knock on the door of a uniformed chaplain to deliver messages, and there are telegrams that have been sent, and that's not going to stop. But today, can we have just a moment, just soak in that moment of people who sacrificed their lives for our great country? Can we have that moment together? And the people said, amen.
Thank you, Chairman Latham. Thank you all for being here today, for all of our candidates. We appreciate you. We appreciate the citizens being here. Let's go out on June 5th and vote for Republicans that we can put into office on November and continue to make America great again, continue to make Alabama great again. God bless the Republican Party, God bless the state of Alabama, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you for being here today. And that concludes our program.